Imagine a war that doesn't end when a soldier comes home. A quiet, constant battle fought behind closed doors. The enemy isn't on a battlefield, it's the daily grind of triggers, appointments, and overwhelming stress. And on the front line of this war is someone we almost never see, the spouse, fighting to hold their family and themselves together. In this explainer, we're diving into a really powerful study that searched for a lifeline in this invisible war.
You know, it all begins right here, with this one word. It's a promise, right? A shared life, a partnership. This is the first identity, the one you choose with your whole heart, to be a partner, a foundation of love. But for millions of veteran spouses, that role gets eclipsed by another one, the full-time, 24/7 caregiver. Suddenly, your life is about managing medications, navigating emotional crises, and trying to quiet the ghosts of combat that your partner brought home.
And when you're wearing both of those hats day in and day out, it can lead to this devastating feeling of being completely invisible. Like you're fighting this huge battle, but no one can see you. You feel unheard, unsupported, and totally alone. This quote just hits so hard because it's the reality for so many. Let me tell you about Sarah. It's a composite, but her story is all too real. Before her husband came home, Sarah was a thriving graphic designer. She had friends, hobbies, a life that was her own. Now, her days are a maze of phone calls to the VA and carefully watching her husband's mood, always on alert for a PTSD episode. Her career's on the back burner, and her friends, well, they don't call as much. They just don't get it. Sarah feels like she's disappearing. And this isn't just burnout, it's so much deeper. There's actually a clinical term for it, secondary PTSD. Think about it. Trauma is like a stone tossed into a pond. The ripples don't just stop at the person who experienced it, they spread out. Spouses absorb the stress, the anxiety, the nightmares, until they start showing signs of trauma themselves. It's the silent, psychological price of loving someone who's been to war. And the scale of this problem, it's absolutely staggering. A major Rand Corporation study found there are 5.5 million veteran caregivers in the US alone. Let that sink in. 5.5 million people, just like Sarah, holding their families together, often in complete silence. Okay, time for a quick question to really frame this. What percentage of veterans who served in Iraq or Afghanistan reported having symptoms of PTSD? Is it A, 5%, B, 20%, or C, 50%? The answer is B, 20%, a full 1 in 5. That right there shows you how widespread the initial trauma is, and it helps you understand how that ripple effect can end up touching millions of caregivers. So this leads us to the big question, right? If millions are fighting this silent battle, where do they turn? What actually helps? How can we support the supporters? Well, a really fascinating study set out to find some answers. Now, research like this, the kind that finds real-world answers, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. So we want to take a moment to give a special and heartfelt thanks to London Heartbeat Z Academy in the UK for their incredible educational support that helps make explainers like this one possible. They're doing some really amazing work, and I'd encourage you to check them out. You can explore over 150 popular courses on their platform. And hey, to make sure you don't miss out on any of their free updates and future discussions, you should definitely subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For those of you who want to dive even deeper, they offer an upgraded YouTube membership that gets you early access to videos and even personal guidance sessions. All right, so let's get back to the science. The researchers designed what they called a 21-day experiment. They wanted to find a solution for these spouses that was practical, accessible, and could actually make a difference for people who are just buckling under the stress. Okay, so here's how they set it up, and it was pretty brilliant. They divided the volunteer spouses into 3 groups. Group 1 got faith-based coaching. So live group coaching, a workbook, a daily app, but it all had scripture and faith woven into it. Group 2 got the exact same structure, live coaching, app, workbook, but all the tools were secular, based on things like cognitive behavioral therapy. And Group 3 was the control group. They just got the workbook and the app to use on their own. No live coaching. This setup was so smart because it let them see not just what works, but what works best. And this wasn't just a one-off workshop, it was a whole journey. It kicked off with a big 2-hour coaching session to get everyone started. Then, for 3 weeks, they had daily exercises on a mobile app to build consistency. And each week, they had live 90-minute check-ins to keep the momentum going. The whole thing was based on that popular idea that it takes about 21 days to form a new habit, to literally rewire your brain.
So, quick pop quiz. How long did this experiment last? Was it A, 7 days, B, 21 days, or C, 6 weeks? The answer, you guessed it, is B, 21 days, that crucial habit-forming window. And this is where we meet Maria. She signed up for the study feeling completely skeptical. I mean, her stress was so deep she thought, no way this is going to work. But during the very first guided breathing exercise in her group session, for maybe 30 seconds, that constant knot in her stomach just loosened. It was a tiny little spark, but it was the first glimmer of hope she'd felt in years. All right, next question for you. The study used a web-based app for all those daily exercises. Is that true or false? The answer is true, and this is a huge deal. Why? Because it meant any spouse could participate, no matter where they lived. They didn't have to find childcare or take time off work or drive for hours to get to a clinic. It took away some of the biggest barriers to getting help. So the 21 days came and went. All the data was collected. The big question is, what did they find? Which of these approaches actually managed to move the needle for spouses who were at their breaking point? And here it is. This is the big aha moment from the entire study. The results were just so clear. While pretty much everyone got some benefit, this chart shows that only one group saw what we call a statistically significant leap in their overall health and well-being. And that was the faith-based coaching group. We're not talking about a tiny bump here. It was a powerful, measurable shift. It suggests that combining those science-backed tools with the power of community and personal faith was a uniquely potent recipe for healing.
But check this out. There was this other amazing, unexpected finding. So here's a question. Who did the participants start sharing these new coping techniques with? Was it A, their neighbors, B, their veterans and children, or C, their therapists? The answer is B, their own families. Spouses started teaching the breathing exercises to their kids when they were stressed, and they started guiding their veteran partners through calming techniques. The healing didn't just stay with them. It started rippling out to the whole family. How cool is that?
Okay, so this is all great research, but what does it mean for you? The best part is that this study is full of real, practical tools that anyone can use to build resilience. So let's break down a few of the exact techniques they used that you can start trying today. First up, something called the 4-7-8 breathing technique. It's so simple, but it's an incredible tool for calming your nervous system when you feel overwhelmed. Let's just walk through it real quick. You exhale all the air out, then close your mouth and breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. You hold that breath for a count of 7, and then you exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 8. Do that 3 or 4 times, and it's like a reset button. So here's a question for you. MCQ number 5. This technique is designed to activate the body's natural what? A, fight or flight response, or B, relaxation response. The answer is B, the relaxation response. It's a physiological hack that tells your brain, hey, we're safe, you can calm down now. Next up, a tool for that internal chaos, the JOURNAL method. This isn't just scribbling in a diary. It's a structured way to get your thoughts out of your head and onto paper where you can actually look at them. You move from just dumping your feelings to observing your patterns, understanding your real needs, and figuring out a path forward. Now, speaking of wellness, the study also touched on practices like yoga. And I have to make a quick correction here. The source material used some older data, but since then, yoga's popularity has exploded. Recent studies show that over 15.8% of US adults now practice yoga, more than double the old number. It just shows how much people are turning to these mind-body practices. Okay, let's make sure that last tool sticks. In the JOURNAL acronym, the A stands for awareness. True or false? That is true. It's that key step where you zoom out and see the whole picture. This brings us to Jessica. After a really tough day with her husband, she tried this method, and as she was writing, she noticed a thought that came up over and over. I can never do anything right. Just seeing it there in black and white, becoming aware of that toxic script, was the first crucial step toward changing it. Now, the study also covered other great tools like grounding techniques. So, quick question. What sense does a grounding technique, like holding an ice cube, primarily engage? The answer is touch, to pull you back into the present moment. They also talked nutrition. Which of these can often make anxiety worse, caffeine or leafy greens? Of course, it's caffeine. And finally, they used a model for self-talk called SASC. What does that first S stand for? It stands for stop, as in stop the negative thought. And the final step, the C? That stands for choose. Choose a better, more helpful thought. See? All simple, powerful tools.
So when we boil it all down, what are the biggest takeaways here?
First, if we want to help our veterans, we absolutely must help their caregivers. Their well-being is completely intertwined. Second, you don't need a huge dramatic overhaul. Small daily practices like breathing and journaling can create massive change over time. Third, community is medicine. Just knowing you aren't alone in your struggle is incredibly healing. And finally, at least according to this study, the most powerful approach seems to be an integrated one, something that addresses the mind, the body, and for many people, the spirit. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. In this world of constant stress, is the future of wellness really about finding the next new tool or the perfect app? Or is it maybe about rediscovering something much older and more profound? The incredible healing power that comes from genuine community and, for many, a connection to faith. Definitely something worth pondering.